Well, the Dickey-Wicker Amendment is alive and well. What? You've never heard of it? Well, most people haven't because it's a little bit of language that was slipped into an appropriation bill. It was never debated on the floor of the House, and it basically says that the federal government can't fund things that involve the destruction of embryos. And so in a lawsuit brought by several people, first of all, by a couple of researchers who are working on adult stem cells, and also by the Nightlight Christian Adoptions Group. This Judge Royce Lamberth, he's a Reagan appointee, has put a stop so far. At least so far, it appears. Now there's obviously a time to play this thing out, but has put a stop to this, and to the research, federally funded research. Using stem cells. Now, here's the situation. There are 400,000 frozen embryos in the United States, more or less. That's the best guess. About 2,000 of them have been used to produce children. And, in fact, Nightlight Christian Adoptions, who we'll have on in just a moment, facilitates that. But a study by Northwestern University psychologist Susan Block found that almost every couple who believed that they would donate an embryo to another infertile couple ended up backing out when it was intentional. Why? It was just too strange for those parents to think of another family raising children that would have been biologically the siblings of their own. Arthur Kaplan, in fact, the director of Center for Bioethics at the University of Pennsylvania, has said that such programs are a sham perpetrated by anti-abortion activists intended on portraying all fertilized eggs as full-fledged human beings. So let's find out. Ron Stoddard. Ron Stoddard is an attorney, the executive director of the Nightlight Christian Adoptions Agency. Nightlight.org is their website. Ron, welcome to the program. Oh, I'm sorry, Ron. I got to push the right button. Ron, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Thom.
Thank you. And my apologies for that. Why are you guys lobbying to essentially let people die of horrific diseases in order to protect cells in a petri dish?
We're not. What we're doing is trying to bring to the attention of the court the fact that the new rules promulgated by the administration violates the law, the Dickey-Wicker Amendment, as you so accurately described it. We are, in fact, very much in favor of stem cell research. We believe that adult stem cell research has produced over 100 cures and treatments for some of these horrific diseases that you're talking about. In addition to that, recent technology has allowed stem cells to be removed from embryos without destroying them. So we believe that all of those are good things and good advances.
But you've got
produce results.
Why are you opposed to the? I mean, you've got 400,000 of these embryos. They're constantly being produced because people, when they go for in vitro fertilization, they in the petri dish, they take the eggs out of the mom and the sperm out of dad. They mix them together in the petri dish, and they got a whole bunch of fertilized eggs, basically, and which are referred to as zygotes, not as embryos. And they pick out the ones that look the best. First of all, why would you want the ones that weren't picked out, the best ones? They implant those in mom and try to produce a baby. And then the rest of them typically get flushed down the drain. By your logic, the in vitro fertilization clinics should be shut down as well.
Well, we're not suing the in vitro fertilization clinics.
But are you opposed to their existence?
No, I'm not opposed to their existence. I believe that life begins at conception, and that all life is, every single one, is precious and should be protected. Now, that is not what the law says. The law allows lives at certain stages not to be protected, and that's the law.
But the Dickey-Wicker Amendment specifically uses the word embryo. And an embryo, my understanding is that scientifically, an embryo is what you have when a fertilized zygote, a fertilized egg, attaches to the womb of a woman and starts multiplying into multiple cells. And so what has really been stopped is research on zygotes, isn't it?
Well, that's not what the judge believes.
I got that.
The judge believes that the destruction of the human embryos to extract stem cells violates the Dickey-Wicker Amendment.
Okay, so why would you support a Dickey-Wicker amendment that, again, is going to let people die of horrific diseases in order to protect cells in a petri dish? I guess the bottom line is that I'm calling them cells in a petri dish, and you're calling it a human life. Isn't that really where it's, where our perspective is cleaving?
Well, we have two issues. Number one, yes, I believe that life begins at conception. That is when the sperm enters the egg, and that is when life begins. And that's not a belief, that's a scientific fact. I don't think that any scientist says that, no, life doesn't begin then.
Well, no, you could
later.
easily argue that an unfertilized egg is alive, and you could easily argue that an ununited sperm is alive as well. Are we going to start protecting them? Are we going to start capturing menstrual periods?
No, and I think that the argument that a sperm is alive and an egg is alive begs the question that an embryo, once those two come together, you have a total human being. You have all of the DNA and all the chromosomes necessary for a complete human being, not a half of a human being.
So are you suggesting that we should have funerals for miscarriages?
No.
Well,
we're not in the business of doing funerals.
Isn't that a human being who has died?
I think that there are individuals who have miscarriages that grieve for that life that is lost. I know
that. I've experienced that myself, but I'm saying that, in my family. But I'm saying, at what point it seems like there's an inconsistent logic here.
Well, I don't think it's inconsistent. I think that you have an intentional destruction of life, and you have life that fails to survive by natural reasons.
It is the intentional destruction of a couple of cells.
It's the intentional destruction of a human life. And the other part of the argument, Tom, is that you talk about the fact that we're denying treatment that would cure these horrific diseases.
Yes.
And in fact, adult stem cell research, which does not destroy human life, has in fact produced the cures and the treatments for many of these horrific diseases. Why destroy a life when there's another way to go?
But are you suggesting that a single egg and a single sperm that are still a motile sperm and a viable egg, are they alive?
They are alive. They are alive. They are not a human life.
Okay,
Things can be alive without being.
So is a human life when someone starts experiencing pain?
A human life occurs
someone can
when
think?
You have the total components of a human life, the DNA, the chromosomes that make a complete human life.
Yeah, see, this is a debate that we had in the United States in the 70s, and I thought the Supreme Court basically settled that by and large by saying that a human life is indisputably in the third trimester and arguably in the second trimester.
Well, I don't think that that's what the court decided. I think the court decided that a human life was deserving of protection under the law when it was inside a woman's body at that point in time.
Okay, so
I don't think the
court
was defining when a human life began.
But this is just cells in a petri dish.
Well, your position is that it's.
You've got hundreds of thousands of them. They're going to be flushed down the drain if they're not used for research. Why do you want to forbid researchers from using them? Otherwise, I mean, literally, they're going to be flushed down the drain. They are every day.
The difference is that federal funding has been forbidden by law.
So you'd rather see them flushed down the drain than used for research?
Tom, if Congress wants to change the law, they can do that. Right now, that life is protected. And I believe that
it's not protected because it can get flushed down the drain.
Be protected. The fact that they can be flushed down the drain doesn't mean that we should support them being flushed down the drain.
Okay, Rod
the fact
Stoddard,
that there's 400,000 of them doesn't diminish the value of
the
each
website
one.
is nightlight.org. You can check it out. For more on this and other topics, please visit thomhartmann.com.